offer hope and comfort to others in the face of death? How does knowing Christ change how we understand death? Paul continues to stress his courageous spirit as he begins to speak more directly about the future. He writes of present inner renewal accompanying his outer decay, and looks forward to a time without any decay, whether physical or spiritual, which brings us to our key verse for today, which reads, "For we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, that is, when we die and leave this earthly body, we will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God himself, and not by human hands." 2 Corinthians 5, verse 1. Paul shifts his emphasis from a defense of the suffering he incurs in his ministry to an expression of his confidence in the resurrection hope that sustains him in his suffering. The outer person can be equated with the sinful nature. The inner person is being renewed day by day. The old wastes away, but the new survives forever. The eternal weight of glory awaits a believer. Paul connects suffering in this age and glory in the next age with Jesus. The end time is a good time for those who love him. It is for us who believe to enter that glory. The purpose of God cannot be thwarted away by the present evil. Paul neither minimized nor glorified his sufferings. Instead, he had an eternal perspective. He took his pain in stride, looking at everything in light of eternity. Christians should not focus only on the present persecution or success, but instead must fix their hope, indeed their gaze, to the glory that God has prepared for them. It is a hope based on Christ's resurrection. The risen Jesus allows Paul to use the phrase, "we know," which shows he is fully convinced of a future life that is devoid of suffering and pain. It is a life without change or death. He had an abounding hope of resurrection and heaven. Second, Paul was sure of future divine judgment. In the face of the coming judgment, he had incredible confidence, for his relationship with God was already right. Third, Paul was persuaded that the reconciliation of humanity to God was God's initiative, motivated by love and manifested in and brought about by Jesus Christ. Paul likens the present human body to a foldable tent that is to be replaced with a building, a clear allusion to the resurrection body that Paul mentioned previously in his previous letter to this church. Paul sought liberation from the imperfection of our present embodiment. He has another home in view. The present age is characterized by groaning, and believers are not exempt from the groaning of the whole created order. Thus, Paul says, "We groan, but we do not groan as hopeless people." It is a groaning that is accompanied by a longing. It was not a longing for death. Paul's hope and groaning were not for death, because death is not the hope of the Christian. Heaven is. Resident in the body is absent from the Lord. Absence from the body is residence with the Lord. What did Paul understand to be involved in being at home with the Lord? It is more than location. At home with the Lord depicts Christians' eternal destiny. We will be at home with the Lord means that we will not only be where he is, but also there will be a higher form of intimate relationship with Christ that we will experience. The nature of the future, Paul's destiny of residence with the Lord, and the necessity of appearing before him for judgment all motivated him to please the Lord. Although Paul is not completely devoid of the hope of being honored by the Corinthians, his proclamation of the gospel and his entire life were devoted to pleasing the Lord rather than winning honor from people. So here's our lesson. While in the body we must act in such a way so that we will be pleasing to God at the judgment. We will all be seen for what we are. All believers will be judged and stripped of all disguises, masks, and pretensions before the judgment seat of Christ. What we do in the body has moral significance and eternal consequences. To be conformed to Christ's glorious body in the next life, we must be conformed to his image and character in this life.